Color, taste, body. When it comes to appreciating fine Scotch, I'm no slouch. And when it comes to a fine Scotch, the Glenfiddich range brings together the finest single malt Scotch whiskies, each with its own unique character and distinctive taste. And joining me in studio to take me on a tour of the pride of the Highlands is Ian Miller, a Scotch expert. Now there's a title I long for. And who conducts regular nosing and tasting sessions for enthusiastic imbibers, such as perhaps you. And maybe we'll learn a thing or two about, I think, a growing appreciation for Scotch. Would you agree, Ian?
Absolutely, certainly in Canada. And if you look at the growth, even globally on Scotch right now, it's between 8 and 10% globally. And each distillery in Scotland is continually having to expand or increase the amount of malt whisky that they produce for consumers.
Now, it's approaching November, and our temperatures are falling, that you've decided to select a fine-looking kilt there. I see you're in the garb, traditionally, and the aroma of the studio now is probably at its best ever. This is just a wonderful... Tell me about this nosing and what it is you do when you nose.
Well, malt whisky is truly exceptionally nice to nose, and in between sips, it's nice to actually nose a whisky, because whisky for me is less about colour, it's more about what you nose and what you taste. And very often what you nose, if it matches what you taste, then you know you've got a great quality whisky.
Well, let's find out what Scotch is, first of all, for those who don't know. What is Scotch whisky?
Scotch is a generic term for both blended whisky and malt whisky. Blended whisky is generally 30 to 40% malt whisky and 60 to 70% grain whisky. Grain whisky is made from either maize or wheat, and malt whisky is made from 100% malted barley. So if you've got a single malt whisky, it will be made from 100% single malt, and it's great. It's much smoother, it tends to be much older, 12, 15 or 18. A blend tends to be 4, 5, 6 years old, and at a young age it's quite harsh and quite a difficult flavour for a young palate to take on. So I would always advise, if you want to get into whisky, to try and come in through a nice, calm, easy doorway, and single malt offers that easy, calm doorway for you.
Ian Miller, I have to ask you, though, if it was an easy doorway that you came through to get the job to be a taster like this and a noser, how did you get there? You're born in the Highlands, I understand. How did you get the job to do this?
Well, I've been working in whisky since 1971, so I've been managing distilleries throughout the length and breadth of Scotland for the last 35 years, and it got to the point where I was needing something new, so I moved into marketing. I like to travel, and I like to talk, and I like to drink whiskey. So it was an easy fit for me.
Well, teach me a few things, and us as you. I noticed you've, and I'm going to probably use terms that are incorrect, but is this breathing now? Because you've poured a 15-year-old Glen, and is it Fiddich or Fiddich?
It's Fiddich.
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 Okay, you got to make it sound like you're trying to get rid of it.
It's a loch, not a lock, so it's a Fiddich, not a Fiddich.
Fiddich then, and it's 15 years old, right?
Aye. But we don't care how you pronounce it, as long as you're buying Glenfiddich.
All right.
We kind of mix them up in order to achieve a nice, balanced and flavoursome outcome. We're looking for something which is palatable, easygoing, so the consumer will enjoy it. This one also has some of the whisky further matured in new oak at the end of the process to really drive up an additional layer of sweetness. So the 15-year-old, the Glenfiddich 15, is sweet, very rich in flavour, and also at a very reasonable price, which is why it's the first 15-year-old to kick its way into the top 10 of best-selling single malt whiskies. There
All
you
right.
go.
Now, so
It's not breathing, it's waiting for us to stop talking. So
Is that- that's exactly what.
so
it's
there you
doing.
go.
So now we just a little
Slange.
toast.
A wee slange, right?
Oui. All right. Mm-mm. It is very nice, and I'm just having a wee sip. A wee sip. Now, someone once told me that we should release the hounds, or whatever it is in here that release to the nose, with a drop of water.
You can do, but that tends to be with younger whiskies, like a 12. I like the richness of the 15, and I think the older palate can truly enjoy a whiskey at 40 ABV. You can utilise the little bite you get from a malt whiskey by adding a few drops of water. And I say a few drops because very often people they think that you put the same amount of water in again. Well, how do you know it's not less? So I always say start with a wee drop, and you can always add more. But if you put too much water in, you kind of get it back out. So always start small and then keep on building until you get the whiskey to that point where it's right for your palate. and it's all different. Never inflict your opinion on other people, unless of course you're me.
Now, this is like a flute glass, not a what would we call it? Well, I call them Scotch glasses, more open, short little glass. This is like a small flute.
Yeah, this is really for nosing and tasting. It's a very light glass, a very thin glass, and therefore when you warm it up with your hand, you get up to room temperature very quickly.
So unlike wine, your hand is around the flute, and we're warming it.
Yeah, because in wine, it's important who drink wine, they like to see the colour. Once you've seen the colour of whiskey, yeah, that's it. It's still whiskey. So what's important for me is more about the nose and also the flavour. That's the two things I'm looking for. What's the aroma? What does it taste like? Those are the two most important things. Once you've seen the colour, it isn't really going to change much. So get on with the two most important things.
All right. Now, you have brought, this is 15.
It's 15.
There's an 18 there. There's the 12 that we see in the green bottle.
Yep.
You have something very special you brought, though, too, have you not?
Yes, we have.
Not that I'm rushing you or
No.
but that looks very special.
We're going to take a look at a wee 31-year-old that we brought along.
31 years old.
31, yeah. It's
31.
probably too old, but we'll drink it anyway.
Do you think? Do you think there's such a thing as too old?
No, not at all. You have to be careful. Some older whiskies, you need to be looking after it. So we use the best of oak, and we also keep a check on the casks as they're maturing as well,
All right.
just to make sure that
So we're going to warm
they're
it.
coming on nicely. So whiskey's best enjoyed at room temperature. You get much more aroma, much more flavour from a malt whiskey at room temperature. So treat it like red wine, or treat it like a cognac if you like.
All right.
If you add ice to this, which you can do if you like, if you add ice to it, it will
Cheers.
suppress the flavour and the aroma. Your good health.
Oh, why? And again, a taste, and it's a wee bit hot. Like there's a nice warmth.
It's lovely. That's why you're drinking it.
Isn't it? This is lovely. I just want to be home by the fire.
You get additional complexity. The older it gets, 65% of the flavour of any whiskey comes from the oak that it's matured in. So clearly, the longer it's in that oak, the more flavour gets driven in from the oak. The oak has a greater impact on the flavour of the whiskey.
This is a
itself.
vintage.
This is a vintage. Anything that's over 30 is a vintage, basically.
All right, and you have a new vintage coming out
We've
this
got a
year?
new one which is out this year. It's this is from 1975. This one's from 1977. That's when Jack Nicklaus and Greg, was Jack Nicklaus got beaten by, it was at
The
Turnberry.
British Open.
Yeah, British Open. The Jewel in the Sun.
Very nice. Very nice. And a much lighter color than the other one,
Take a look at
surprisingly.
this wee one here.
All right, and this is a very special one.
This is European Oaks, 54.3% alcohol by volume.
Which
So
isn't bottled yet, you have samples of, right?
It is bottled, but I also brought a sample along with me.
And how much would this cost, dare I ask?
This will be plus £300 per bottle.
So about $600
Very exclusive because
Canadian.
we're only, it'll be about $700.
$700 Canadian.
But
But if you like it,
but worth every penny. So 54.3.
Christmas
so
is
it
coming.
is a little strong. So what
Okay.
we're going to do is we're going to have a wee drink,
okay.
and then we'll probably add just a wee drink of water in just to kind of tease it on down and make it slightly more palatable. Okay.
So I'm having a wee sniff.
Slange, yeah.
You're right, it's strong, but I like it.
But if you just add just a wee drop of water,
All right.
you can tease down a little, just a little bite in there, and it doesn't take a lot.
All right. And boy, look at it climb and get all swirly in there.
This is European oak, so you can see the darkness. It's an ex-sherry cask. It's been in there for 34 years. That's a long time for a whiskey to mature, but it's worth it.
Oh, the difference with the water is just...
Just a wee drop. Yeah.
I have learned much from the master here, Ian Miller. Glenfiddich.
Glenfiddich. Just making out your spitting.
Yes,
Glenfiddich.
but don't. And from 15 to
34.
34 years. This has been a wonderful tour. I thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having so long.
CJAD time is 6:43. I'm just going to have a wee bit of water and I'll be right back. Thank you so much.
And your good health. Thanks for having us.
And there's the evidence for those of you who may wonder about my driving afterwards. Rick's had nothing but a wee sip, but he's enjoyed every little bit of it. Oh my God.